There is a quiet kind of resilience that few notice. It doesn't appear in tears, loud confessions, or visible sorrow. It hides in stillness, in the calm face of someone who has felt storms behind closed doors. Perhaps you know someone like this. Perhaps you are someone like this. They move through the world carrying their emotions silently, protecting themselves from the vulnerability of being seen. Psychologists find it fascinating. People who never cry are not heartless, nor indifferent. They are observers, guardians of their inner world, and keepers of emotions too delicate, too powerful, or too painful to display. Their silence speaks volumes. If only we were listening. There are people whose strength whispers rather than shouts. They move through life carrying burdens invisible to the world, yet their presence is unmistakable. You may have met someone like this. Perhaps you are someone like this. They do not cry when others might expect them to. Tears do not fall easily, yet beneath the calm exterior, an entire ocean of emotion swells, sometimes quietly crashing, sometimes gently lapping against the edges of their consciousness. Their resilience is subtle. It hides behind small smiles, polite nods, and the measured rhythm of everyday interactions. They show up when others falter, offer support when no one asks, and maintain a steady composure, even as their inner world trembles. To the casual observer, they appear composed, even indifferent. But this is a misperception. Their silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It is a deliberate holding of the self, a quiet mastery over vulnerability. Often, their emotional restraint is misunderstood. Society tends to equate crying with authenticity, believing that visible tears are proof of feeling. But for some, the absence of tears is not denial. It is protection, a shield forged by life experiences, sometimes by necessity, sometimes by instinct. They have learned that the act of crying can be exposing, a way for the world to glimpse the tender places they prefer to guard. And so, they carry their feelings inward, weaving them into the silent architecture of their daily lives. There is a rhythm to this silent endurance. Each moment of pain, disappointment, or loss is folded carefully into the interior of their mind. Each joy, triumph, or fleeting wonder is quietly acknowledged without the need for outward display. Their lives are filled with layers of emotion that do not require witnesses. They understand the paradox of human experience, that what is most precious often exists beyond observation, beyond applause, beyond validation. And yet, this restraint is not weakness. On the contrary, it is a testament to the strength of their inner world. To navigate life without outward release, to endure without spectacle, requires a depth of self-awareness few possess. They have cultivated an intimacy with their own consciousness, learning to recognize the ebb and flow of feelings without surrendering to them entirely. They have discovered that not all pain needs expression, and that sometimes survival demands quiet mastery over emotion. There is a poetry to this silence. It is seen in the careful way they observe the world, noticing the smallest details, the tilt of a friend's smile, the unspoken tension in a crowded room, the subtle rhythm of sunlight through leaves. In these moments, they connect with life, not through dramatic gestures, but through attentive presence. Their feelings are lived fully, even if they remain unseen. Perhaps the most profound lesson they offer is this: strength does not always announce itself. Some of the deepest, most enduring forms of courage are those kept private, those that do not seek recognition. They remind us that the human heart can be vast, complex, and resilient, even when its storms remain unshared. And in their quietude, they invite us to consider our own relationship with emotion, vulnerability, and presence. In the stillness of hidden feelings, there is power. Life is not only in the tears shed or the emotions displayed, but in the moments held carefully within. The people who never cry move through the world with quiet attentiveness, sensing what remains unspoken, noticing what others overlook. Their silence is not absence, it is depth. It is the gentle courage to exist authentically, even when no one is watching. The reasons some people never cry are rarely simple. They are layered, tangled, and often shaped by experiences long before adulthood. Childhood, in particular, can plant the earliest seeds of emotional restraint. In homes where vulnerability was met with discomfort, dismissal, or even judgment, children quickly learn to hold back. Tears, once a natural release, become dangerous signals that attract attention, risk disapproval, or reveal fragility in spaces where strength was demanded. In such environments, a subtle lesson takes root. Emotions are private, not shared. The child who once cried freely may gradually discover that the world does not reward openness. Laughter may be praised, but sorrow might be shamed. Expressing grief could be seen as weakness, and admitting fear or doubt might invite ridicule. Over time, these early lessons shape the mind into a careful observer, a silent keeper of feeling. To survive, it is safer to hide the full spectrum of emotion, to become competent at wearing a mask while the heart quietly navigates its storms. But it is not only childhood that influences this pattern. Culture, societal norms, and expectations play their part as well. Across many societies, certain emotions, grief, sadness, vulnerability, are coded as undesirable, particularly for men. Boys are told to be strong or stop crying, phrases that embed themselves into the psyche and persist long after adolescence. Over decades, this messaging becomes internalized, forming a default response. Keep feelings private, express only what is socially acceptable, and never let pain be publicly visible. Even personal relationships can reinforce emotional withholding. People learn quickly who can be trusted and who cannot. A betrayal, an unkind remark, or repeated disappointment teaches caution. Each painful experience builds an invisible fence around the heart, guiding behavior with quiet rules. Never overshare, never show weakness, and always protect the self from judgment. These invisible walls are not arbitrary. They are survival mechanisms, carefully constructed over years to maintain emotional safety. At the same time, some who never cry carry an innate temperament toward introspection and control. Neuroscience tells us that individual differences in emotional reactivity and regulation play a significant role. Some brains naturally produce less outward display of emotion, even when the internal experience is intense. For them, emotional expression may be deeply private, processed internally rather than broadcast externally. It is not avoidance, but a preferred mode of processing the world. And yet, the roots of emotional withholding are rarely purely negative. Within restraint, there is often a hidden wisdom, the ability to observe, to pause, to measure responses carefully. People who do not cry may develop heightened empathy, sensitivity, and perception, precisely because they spend so much time observing their inner world. By holding their emotions, they inadvertently cultivate a subtle understanding of themselves and others, a quiet literacy of feeling that is profound, though unseen. Ultimately, the roots of never crying are as complex as human experience itself. They intertwine childhood lessons, cultural codes, relational experiences, and innate temperament into a tapestry of emotional strategy. What may appear as coldness or indifference on the surface is, in reality, a carefully cultivated resilience, a method of navigating a world that often misunderstands vulnerability. And in this restrained emotional landscape, there is a paradoxical strength. The more they hold within, the more they understand the breadth of feeling itself. In the silence of their restraint, the past echoes quietly, shaping who they are, guiding how they respond, and framing the way they interact with the world. They may never cry, but their inner life is rich, layered, and enduring. The roots of their withholding are not weaknesses, they are foundations, quietly fortifying the emotional architecture of their being. Beneath the surface of withheld tears lies a subtle biology, a quiet orchestration of mind and body that shapes who never cries. The human brain is not a uniform instrument. It is a landscape of specialized regions, each influencing how emotion is felt, processed, and expressed. In people who rarely shed tears, certain neural pathways are finely tuned toward internalization. The amygdala, responsible for emotional salience, may still register pain and sadness acutely, but its signals are modulated by the prefrontal cortex, which governs self-control, planning, and restraint. This intricate interplay allows feelings to be fully experienced internally, even as outward expression is minimized. Hormones play their part too. Cortisol, the stress hormone, can heighten emotional sensitivity, but some individuals develop adaptive mechanisms that dampen outward reactions. Similarly, variations in oxytocin, the molecule often linked to empathy and bonding, can influence the way emotion is externally communicated. People who do not cry are not devoid of feeling. Rather, their internal chemistry interacts with experience and learned behavior to create a form of emotional containment that appears external calm but conceals a rich inner life. Psychology offers another layer of understanding. Emotional suppression, a concept studied extensively, is not inherently harmful when used selectively. Those who refrain from crying may be engaging in what researchers call adaptive suppression, a deliberate, often subconscious strategy to maintain composure. Unlike maladaptive repression, which buries feelings to be unconsciously acted upon, adaptive suppression allows individuals to regulate when and where emotions are released. They may choose to experience grief in private, reflection in solitude, or joy internally, savoring it without the need for external validation. There is also the concept of alexithymia, difficulty identifying and expressing emotions. While not everyone who never cries fits this category, it offers insight into a psychological mechanism at play. Some people simply process feelings in a more cerebral, less somatic way. They understand their emotions cognitively, but do not manifest them outwardly. Tears in these cases are not the metric of depth or sensitivity. They are one of many possible expressions. Their internal life remains vivid, nuanced, and fully present, even if unseen cultural neuroscience further explains why some people never cry. Across societies, exposure to collective norms affects neural responses to emotion. In cultures that prize stoicism or view tears as socially undesirable, the brain can adapt over time, reinforcing suppression pathways. This does not diminish the emotional experience, it reshapes its outward manifestation. The result is a person whose external demeanor is calm, controlled, and composed, while internally they navigate the full spectrum of feeling. Interestingly, research in social psychology highlights an unexpected advantage of emotional containment. People who do not cry in public are often more resilient under pressure, able to respond with clarity in situations where others might be overwhelmed by visible distress. This does not mean they are immune to pain. Rather, they have developed a mechanism to process emotions efficiently, conserving energy and attention for critical tasks. Their internal processing allows for a depth of reflection that outward expression can sometimes interrupt. Ultimately, the science behind emotional silence reveals a delicate harmony of biology, psychology, and learned behavior. The mind and body collaborate to create a state of attentive containment where emotions are fully acknowledged, measured, and integrated internally. The person who never cries is not a paradox. They are an embodiment of emotional intelligence exercised in a quiet, deliberate, and profoundly human way. Their silence is not absence, it is presence, concentrated and deep. In this space between feeling and expression, there is insight, there is observation, there is understanding. The science does not diminish the beauty of human emotion, it illuminates it, revealing that restraint, far from being a deficiency, can be a subtle mastery of self, a testament to the enduring complexity of the human heart. Even in the quietest souls, a tension exists. Within those who never cry, there is often a subtle, persistent inner conflict, a dialogue between the heart that feels deeply and the mind that restrains outward expression. This conflict is rarely dramatic or violent. It is a low hum beneath everyday life, a soft friction between desire and discipline. They feel fully, yet they choose containment, and in that choice lies both strength and struggle. The resistance to tears is rarely conscious. It often begins as a learned habit, a protective measure cultivated in early life. Perhaps a child once faced disapproval for showing vulnerability, or observed loved ones reacting poorly to emotional display. Over time, these experiences form a quiet code. Feelings are private, expression is optional, and safety lies in stillness. The mind internalizes this rule, and it becomes a lens through which all subsequent emotional experiences are filtered. To cry is not forbidden, but it is restrained by habit, by caution, by a quiet insistence on self-possession. Yet, the suppression of tears carries its own weight. Even when outward composure is maintained, internal experiences swirl in unspoken turbulence. Moments of grief, frustration, or joy accumulate, creating a layered internal world that is simultaneously rich and burdensome. Sometimes the individual senses a tension between what is felt and what is expressed, a dissonance that whispers, "I am more than what you see." This inner awareness can be both grounding and isolating, offering depth of insight while cultivating a secret loneliness. The conflict extends into relationships. Those who never cry may struggle to communicate emotional intensity, even with those they love most. They sense the longing for connection, yet hesitate, unsure if revelation will be understood. Tears, though absent, would serve as a bridge, but the bridge remains unbuilt. This restraint is often mistaken for coldness, detachment, or indifference, when in reality it is a deliberate negotiation with vulnerability. The person knows that every outward release carries a cost: visibility, exposure, potential judgment. So, they hold, they weigh, they measure psychologically. This resistance reflects a balance of identity and safety. By controlling outward emotion, they maintain a sense of sovereignty over their inner world. The act of not crying becomes a form of self-regulation, a disciplined guardianship over the fragile landscapes of feeling. Yet, self-regulation is never absolute. In quiet moments alone, the body may signal what the mind suppresses: tightened chest, shallow breath, sudden waves of heat or cold. These bodily cues are the whispers of emotion, reminders that the heart still speaks, even if the lips do not. Conflict is also fueled by societal expectations. From early childhood, social norms dictate which feelings are acceptable, which expressions are praised, and which are frowned upon. Emotional restraint, particularly in men, is often lauded as maturity or strength, while crying can be labelled weakness. Even when culturally irrelevant, these norms leave a subtle imprint, a psychological echo that shapes how one navigates life. The resistance to tears is thus both personal and collective, a negotiation between inner truth and external pressures. Despite the tension, there is a quiet mastery in this inner struggle. Those who never cry learn to sit with discomfort, to tolerate emotional intensity without immediate release. They cultivate a reflective space in which feelings are acknowledged, named, and integrated internally. Over time, this resistance becomes a form of resilience, the ability to endure without collapse, to navigate hardship without visible unraveling. They may not exhibit tears, but they experience life fully, every sorrow, every joy, every subtle shade in between. Ultimately, inner conflict and emotional resistance are not signs of deficiency. They are evidence of a profound engagement with the self. In learning when to contain and when to release, those who never cry cultivate an intimate understanding of their own depths. The struggle is real, but it is quiet, disciplined, and deeply human, a testament to the enduring complexity of the heart and the silent courage required to navigate life from within. In the stillness of withheld tears, there is a subtle power. Life is not only in what is shown, but in what is quietly held. Those who never cry move through the world with attentive hearts, sensing what remains unspoken and cherishing the fragile truths of their existence. Their silence is not emptiness, it is presence, depth, and the courage to feel authentically, even unseen. Perhaps the quiet lesson lies here. Meaning does not demand an audience, and connection does not require display. Some of life's most profound moments, love, sorrow, joy, transformation, bloom quietly within. In that hidden space, they remind us, to be human is not to perform, but to endure, to observe, and to honor the inner world.